Hello and welcome once again to my podcast, the SNS Cricket Diaries. It's once again an absolute pleasure to have someone whom I have followed very closely and who has been on my podcast a couple of times earlier as well. I have the very prominent Pakistani writer, journalist, and content creator, Ahmer Naqvi. Hello, Ahmer. Thank you so much for once again for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, sir.
So, Emmer is one of the very few journalists and writers who has a very keen insight on Pakistani cricket. So, for people who may not know, let me give a very brief introduction of Emmer. Ahmer Naqvi is a prominent Pakistani writer, journalist, and content creator, specializing in not just cricket, by the way, but into music and digital media as well. He has contributed extensively to ESPNcricinfo, offering insightful analysis on cricket, particularly focusing on Pakistan's performance and the cultural aspects of the sport, which is an absolute pleasure to hear. Beyond his journalistic endeavors, Naqvi has served as the chief operating officer of Patari, Pakistan's premier audio streaming platform. He has also acted as a digital media consultant for major sporting events, including the Pakistan Super League. So, Emmer, with such an impressive body of work that you have, once again for my channel, it's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Very kind of you
In
to
fact,
invite me and yeah, be so celebratory of me.
no, no, every word is well deserved, Emmer. And one thing that I did not mention in my introduction was that Emmer also has his own YouTube channel called Butta Fast, where he does analysis of Pakistan's day-to-day cricket, along with Osman Samiuddin, who is another very, very established and very prominent cricket writer. So do check out. I'll leave the link of his YouTube channel in the description of this video for you guys to catch that. So Emma, firstly, we're going to talk a little bit about the Champions Trophy. Yes, it's been now I think more than a month that or almost a month I guess that the tournament finished. Yeah, I think the final was on 9th of March. So yeah, we are a bit late on that, but and a lot of things have happened after that. Pakistan has toured New Zealand. They have lost the T20 series and the ongoing one day series also they've lost. So a lot to talk about Pakistan cricket. Firstly, Amir, before we talk about Pakistan's performance in the Champions Trophy, I would like to talk about the Champions Trophy itself as a tournament being hosted by Pakistan, an ICC tournament after almost 30 years. So what importance has it had on Pakistani cricket, considering the fact that they were bereft of international cricket for almost a decade?
Hmm. I think that it was the sort of tragedy that is difficult for like human beings to write. Only like, destiny can come up with something like that. No, which is barely like the first sentence is just for effect. To get more nuance into it, I think it was overall taking of it, like, regardless of whatever happened, and there was a lot that happened. Um, Overall, I think that it was still a really wonderful symbolic thing for cricket to return. As a not a cricket has been there, but like cricket tournament, an international ICC tournament to come to Pakistan, and at the same time for these stadiums that had not been renovated since the '96 World Cup, to finally get some investment in them, they, get just be brought into like modernity a little bit. So I think that was really amazing. And I think that as someone who has been critical of the PCB chairman, I think Mohsen Naqvi really will go down for this achievement, which was, deciding to make like remaking the stadiums like a big part of his tenure right from the get-go, using that as part of that leverage in the Champions Trophy controversy, and then getting to hosting these without any significant issues, which was being claimed would happen. That's huge. And so I think on that front, on a long-term structural level, this was a really big thing. It was a really amazing thing. I think that everything else that happened in it, we can get to it. But I think just because the Pakistan team's performance itself was also so poor that that they lose two matches, and the third is rained out, and they only end up playing one match in front of their home crowd in a tournament they're hosting. And that obviously, speaks to then all of these other things that were happening at that Champions Trophy. I've tried my best to talk about it without bringing any of that up. Um, and yeah, so that would be my answer.
Okay, fair enough. Emma, okay, getting a little bit into the Champions Trophy and talking about Pakistan's performance, the fact that you mentioned Pakistan did not qualify for the knockouts. Was it something that came as a surprise to you, or were you somewhere expecting, having seen Pakistan's performance leading up to that tournament? Were you sort of not surprised by the fact that they could not even make it to the knockouts? And in what way did that sort of take the sheen off the trophy? And also, I would like you to talk about the fact that India did not come to Pakistan. So, in that way, was it a would you count it as a success? Counting all these things in mind.
Yeah, so I think that's why I tried to give like this diplomatic, answer at the start to highlight anything that can be described as a sheen or a positive, because otherwise, it was a ridiculous tournament. And it continued the formalizing of cricket as a ridiculous sport. Um, and by that, I mean that you already have a situation in cricket where the teams do not play each other any sort of like regularity. Like, people try and say World Trust Championship is there, but you look at what a farce that is. You're not expected to play every side equally or as often at all. Um, and then, so you've already codified a farcical kind of setup that no other sport follows. But now you're getting into a stage where this team is like, we're not going to come here. We're not going to come on the record and say why. We just, point to things without really stating what it is. And uh, because of that, we are now going to force everyone to come here. So this is no longer a tournament hosted in Pakistan. And there is also no longer a tournament that any tournament would be like that. Obviously, there are many tournaments in the world in many sports that are held in two countries simultaneously. But then the expectation is that everyone bears it equally or the hosts benefit while others don't, blah, 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 blah. So this is, it's like when you are playing as children and like children, someone gets petulant, someone gets angry, and then they force something that's not really part of the rules. Like that's the last time that you kind of experience that in sports. Afterwards you grow up and there are certain rules that everyone has to follow. Um so a tournament like this, that's it's a mockery of everything, right? Like it's a mockery what Pakistan hosted. And again, like I think the tragic and the hilarious part of this is that Pakistan performed so poorly, so that, now everyone could be like, well, what does it matter if India came or didn't come or whatever? Pakistan's going to lose, or even in Pakistan itself, there's a lot of like kind of, disappointment to the team. So we're not really talking about like the bigger picture. But that's where, forget the politics and the this and the that. Like it's a farce. Like this is not how sports are played in any other sport, right? Like as I said, like it's kind of like you're watching kids in the street playing pakram pakrai, tag, baraf pani, some stupid game. But now like it's national teams presented, but it's still kids wale rules. Okay, like if the most popular kid loses, then everyone else kind of starts figuring out how to lose instead so that they just keep him happy. Like the game, that's I think it's ridiculous. And I feel like it's really disillusioning as a journalist or an analyst or whatever. And like I say that for so long that I've been working in this professionally, like it's hard to connect as a fan. So I won't speak for fans, but I would imagine for fans as well. It's so disillusioning because like for example, if the BCCI comes out and says we're not going because of security threat because of Hafiz Saeed being still at large, and we would like Pakistan government to do something about it before we send our team. Now, you could debate whether that's fair or unfair, or why hasn't it happened, why will it happen, etc. But if it's something in black and white like that, then it's very easy to kind of be like, okay, so Pakistan government maybe then arrests him, and then it's like, okay, will India come now? Or they don't arrest him, and then India can say, look, dude, this is an issue that we have. But even in that situation, it's like, okay, so as a protest, we will boycott this tournament. You can do that. You can't be like, okay, we're not going to go then. Everyone has to come and play where we want to play. And then, there's all kinds of like the sad part is that you're not allowed to say this either. So everyone's like, actually, it was a disadvantage for India to be there. Actually, this was an issue, that is an issue. Like, that's not the point where there was an advantage or disadvantage. The point is that what was the reasoning behind this? It was a vague security threat that the foreign ministry says the BCCI has said it, and the BCCI says the foreign ministry has said it, and no one gives you a clear answer. So there's nothing clear that can be done about it. And the ICC obviously is cannot doesn't act or is perceived as an independent body. Um, so yeah, it was really sad as somebody who enjoys cricket for all of these reasons, including the fact that Pakistan once again is in, I would say, fallen off the mainstream, in terms of white ball cricket. So there's that, and there's the results, and there's everything else. But it was just, like it would have been preferable, like as India's our arch rival and whatever. But if India had been in Pakistan and won the final in Lahore or Karachi and defeated Pakistan horribly or whatever the hell, it would have been 1,000 million times better. Like I mean, random Indian journalists were getting rock star treatment because that's what kind of these contacts we've seen it again and again when they were playing each other in Melbourne and fans were singing Basuri or whatever the hell. Like, these are moments. I think like the fact that we will never, like, he'll retire and we'll never see Virat Kohli play in Pakistan is just an unspeakable tragedy. Like that's it's I can't imagine the kind of reaction Kohli would have had walking out National Stadium, walking out on Gaddafi Stadium, walking out in any place in Pakistan, forget cricket stadiums. Like, so we lost all of that as well. And most importantly, like, yeah, like, I think, what are you thinking about in the future, particularly in Pakistan cricket? Um, all of that was just really, really, it was a really sad event.
Hmm. I mean, you mentioned about some random journalist getting rockstar treatment. I'm as a sort of just reminded of a certain, I don't know whom you're pointing at, but without taking names, I guess I just sort of am reminded of certain one of those journalists who are quite popular here in India as well. But anyway, I mean, Amar, so like coming to Pakistan's performance on the field, so I would like you to answer that question. That was it a surprise for you to see Pakistan not make it through? To the semis, or was it something that sort of you were half expecting?
Well, Pakistan was definitely not playing great. Um, and I think, I mean, Pakistan cricket's always in some kind of chaos and turmoil. And um, and I think because maybe just like a psychological reaction to try and deal with it, like I've tended to start looking at things, trying with a bit more distance, which is to say that I think that Pakistan cricket may, when the good periods come, they're not necessarily because of any efforts being done by the board or by the society or by the country or by like the board and the authorities, but rather like some kind of set of historical circumstances coming together. So to take the recent past, like the launch of the PSL 10 years ago now, or 10th season now, 9 years ago, Introduced a whole bunch of new players who, unlike the previous generation, were right from the get-go playing in front of big crowds and against international top quality players, etc., etc. And that first generation, immediately, like the Champions Trophy win, features a lot of PSL youngsters. But then after that, the run to consecutive semi-final and final in the World T20s was an entire PSL 11. That I had this hope, the in like the kind of craziness that we had where you started off with like Gillespie and Gary Kirsten as your coaches, and then it's Akib and all of that. I had some hope that maybe Rizwan coming in would be able to move on from that Babar conservatism situation, and be able to like leverage, the kind of batting talent that Pakistan does have, and also more importantly, forget the talent, that bring tactics to modern day cricket, like where in the IPL, like now 200 is common. In Pakistan, like that's, if someone is scoring 200, it means your bowling has failed. Like that is the, there's no other
Are you
analysis
talking
of
about the
this
PSL or
in any
Pakistan's international?
format. Like if sorry, but in any tournament, if like 200 is being scored in a T20 match in
Okay.
Pakistan, that is the fault of bowlers. Like, because you see that anytime we're chasing in the last couple of years, like, that was something Babar would keep going back to. So Babar and Rizwan in particular have resisted, kind of blowing things up and going with a modern approach. And um Rizwan sit, like, it seems, especially when, like, the big matches and like these big kind of tournaments or whatever, he goes especially conservative, even though he does have, you have evidence of him showing a lot of progressive tactics and like being a very smart high IQ cricketer. But it was apparent, I guess, before the Champions Trophy as well, that this approach was not going to change. So you really needed, which Pakistan really tactically has been doing for like 40 years, is that you need a situation where its bowlers can make an impact. If that happens, then Pakistan cricket does well.
Mhm.
There's no, even I would say, I don't want to say something crazy, so I'll stop. But yeah, like
You
that's
can
the
say so, yeah.
tactics that Pakistan. I was going to say I don't even think there's a bilateral series where the batters have won it for us, but I know that's not true. But there's definitely no tournament where like the batters have won it for Pakistan. It is always like the bowlers who are keeping you there. And when white ball cricket had more of a balance of bat and ball, again, it was more helpful for Pakistan. But even then, they went 17 years without a trophy from 90 to 2009. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, like I said, there's, so to answer your question again, like I feel there was a small chance that Rizwan might do something different than what has been happening for the last couple of years, I would say, since the ODI World Cup. Where there's been, I mean, if you're a diehard Pakistani fan, I guess you blame it on the Asia Cup hybrid model, like that rain delay and the injuries and everything that happened from that time onwards.
Okay.
Um, since then, the team's really, really unraveled, and it was, like, I definitely wanted something nice to happen. It'd be fun, but once the tournament played out, it wasn't that surprising.
Yeah, I think Amar, you bring out a very key moment in time, the Asia Cup, because I think prior to that, Pakistan team under Babar Azam was sort of doing pretty well.
Hmm.
But then that ODI World Cup happened, then Babar Azam was stripped of his captaincy. Shaheen Afridi took over. Then there was again a change in captaincy, but the results have sort of declined, and that's why my question which I had messaged you was also like, is Pakistan ever, is it in terminal decline, or is it ever going to stand up again? Because अभी जो हमने न्यूजीलैंड की सीरीज, आई डोंट नो हाउ मच यू फॉलोड अमर द न्यूजीलैंड सीरीज, जो T20s मैंने देखे अमर, I just felt like, sorry to say, but the kind of batting, especially in the first two T20s, by the two openers, and then number three, I'm not remembering the name exactly, but it was like school boyish cricket. They were just जो हम हिंदी में उसको लप्पेबाजी कहते हैं, लपेड़ा मारना. It was literally like that. And yes, I think one of the openers then in the third T20, which happened at Eden Park, Auckland, he scored a century. But I mean, I don't know how critical you can be. The dimensions of, we all know Eden Park is like like you like playing video game cricket, but then anyway, credit to him, under whatever circumstances he did score a very incredible century, comparing, I mean, as far as the standards of Pakistan cricket are concerned, that was a very fast century. But then again, the next two T20s, again Pakistan team unraveled, and so there were clamors that is why Babar Azam and Mohammad Rizwan were being persisted, because probably the talent that is there after them is, I mean, I frankly felt really something that, are they really even international level players? Looking at the way they were trying to hit, slogging without properly looking at the ball, having any kind of contact. So, what did you think of the younger crop in this New Zealand T20 series, and do you think that they should be persisted within future, and Babar Azam and Rizwan should not be considered until unless they do something incredible at the domestic level to warranty a place in the T20 side?
तो सिद्धार्थ, पहले तो आप मुझे नहीं पता अगर हम उर्दू हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं, और
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल कर सकते
दूसरा
हैं. बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं हम लोग,
दूसरा
हाँ.
के अब ये जो मेरा जवाब है ये सिर्फ आपके लिए नहीं, और ये कोई पर्सनल तौर पे मेरा कोई वो नहीं है, बट आई थिंक ये इंडियन क्रिकेट के लिए ये मैं कहूंगा और स्कूल बॉयज का, जैसे तुमने कहा ना, तो फर्ज करें कि हम 1920s में हैं, और क्या कहते हैं, इंडिया जैसे अनडिवाइडेड प्री पार्टीशन इंडिया में है, सही है, और दो बच्चे हैं, जो भी गांव शहर में रहते हैं, और एक जो है वो ऑक्सफोर्ड पढ़ने की उसके पास सलाहियत है और वो वहां पढ़ने चला जाता है, और दूसरा जो भी अपने गांव शाव में whatever पढ़ाई लिखाई उसने की, एंड ही इज एन इम्पोर्टेंट मेंबर ऑफ द कम्युनिटी देयर, और वो ऑक्सफोर्ड से पढ़ के आता है, और ऑब्वियसली ब्रिटिश राज चल रहा है, तो जो ऑक्सफोर्ड से पढ़ के आएगा उसको नौकरी वगैरह मिल जाएगी, तो ऑब्वियसली इसका ये तो नहीं मतलब कि जो ऑक्सफोर्ड से पढ़ा हुआ है और जो गांव वो इनहेरेंटली सुपीरियर एंड मोस्ट टैलेंटेड है गांव वाले से, बट फर्क ये है कि ऑब्वियसली उसको एक जो उस आजकल की दुनिया के तौर तरीके हैं, उसकी जो पीक जगह है वहां हो के वो आ गया, तो वो उसने सीख लिए, जो नहीं गया वो अपने ही गांव की उसको जो चीजें पता है वो बताऊंगी, दैट्स हाउ वी लुक एट इट। तो अगर उनको दोनों को कहा जाए कि जी अंग्रेजी में तकरीर दें, तो एक वो एक्सेंट वगैरह के साथ बोल देगा, दूसरे का जितनी भी अच्छा कंटेंट होगा वो स्ट्रगल करेगा, राइट। तो पहली चीज तो ये, हम T20 क्रिकेट की बात कर रहे हैं, अगर एक क्रिकेट कल्चर 17 साल से T20 की टॉप ऑक्सफोर्ड पे जाके नहीं पढ़ रहा, तो आप उससे क्या एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं, मतलब कि आप उससे कह रहे हैं कि यार ऑक्सफोर्ड वाले की तरह तू जी खेल और ये होना चाहिए। वो तब हो सकता है कि मे बी उसके गांव के अंदर भी आपने एक ऑक्सफोर्ड टाइप चीज खड़ी कर दी, बट वो ओवरनाइट तो नहीं होगी ना, तो वो 1920s में तो बड़ा मुश्किल था ये करना। तो सो कहने का मतलब ये है कि अगर आप पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट और खासतौर पे वाइट बॉल और खासतौर पे T20 की बात कर रहे हैं, सो द फैक्ट दैट दे डोंट प्ले इन द IPL इज लाइक द बिगेस्ट थिंग that there is. Like, there's no other conversation point before this. And I feel इंडियन क्रिकेट में और खास तौर पे जो इंटेलिजेंट मॉडल फैंस हैं, दे रियली हैव टू, लाइक क्या आप लोग उस समंदर के अंदर मछली हो, तो वो अंदाजा ही नहीं है कि पानी कहाँ शुरू हो रहा है और कहाँ खत्म हो रहा है। Indian cricket is that water. You have to step out and look at the whole planet and then kind of see like, oh, okay, this is how we're impacting everything else. Because इट्स वेरी सिंपल टू मी, लाइक ऑब्वियसली हु द हेल इन पाकिस्तान कैन, अगर वो आप 17 साल की उम्र से रबाडा भी करा रहा है आपको ओवर, बुमराह भी करा रहा है आपको ओवर, कोहली आपके साथ खड़ा है, रोहित आपके साथ खड़ा है, आई डोंट नो, आई यू कैन tell I haven't followed the IPL in a decade. I don't have any other good names, but whoever the hell you're doing, like obviously you will produce much better players. Like देयर इज नो रॉकेट साइंस टू दिस, लाइक वो साउथ एशिया में हर बंदा अपने बच्चे को बाहर पढ़ा भेजने के लिए मर रहा होता है या कोई बेहतर जगह पे भेजने के मर रहा होता है, बिकॉज हमारी तो, चाहे सच या गलत हो, हमारी तो सोच ही यही है। तो मैं भी मैं आई एम रॉन्ग एंड आईपीएल इज नॉट दैट बिग अ डील, बट दैट्स वन पार्ट ऑफ इट। आई थिंक द अदर पार्ट ऑफ इट इज ऑब्वियसली ट्रू दैट आईपीएल जब नहीं भी था तो पाकिस्तान की बैटिंग और पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट की सोच कभी भी कोई खास जबरदस्त नहीं थी। लाइक आहिस्ता आहिस्ता ये अंदाजा होना शुरू हुआ है कि एज एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन, whenever Pakistan's had good players, it's either been because like जैसे कि काउंटी क्रिकेट में जाके खेल रहे थे बहुत सारे, that great 90s generation played a crazy amount of county cricket, which in not the same as the IPL, but was that one of the top standards of cricket you could play in the world. और उसी के साथ साथ PSL जब शुरू हुई है वगैरह, so you've definitely had that first generation. Maybe it's too early to, I would say something on the PSL, because that next generation will come through and you see what it is. But what you can see is that whenever talent emerges in Pakistan, तो PCB, और ना ही सिर्फ PCB, पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट जो टोटल इदारा है, जो उसकी सोच है, वो उनको तबाह कर देती है। वो कोई भी, मतलब जो भी इनोवेटिव लोग आते हैं वो अपनी जिद से कुछ इनोवेशन कर रहे होते हैं, वो उनको पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट में ये नहीं मिल रही होती सपोर्ट एंड व्हाटएवर, व्हिच इज क्रेजी बिकॉज एज अ फैन आई यूज्ड टू बिलीव लाइक wow, पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट क्रिएट सो मेनी रैंडम क्रेजी प्लेयर्स, और बड़ा हमारा कल्चर ऐसा है वैसा है। बेशक होगा वो कल्चर ग्रास रूट्स पे है, बट any of those who've persevered have persevered because Pakistan cricket ultimately is not competent enough to also completely kill them. So maybe the brightest stars reach to the top. But उसके अलावा जो भी थोड़ा सा भी अच्छा प्लेयर होता है उनको तबाह कर चुके होते हैं। तो ये दूसरी बात ये कि ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर आईपीएल है या नहीं है तो उसके बावजूद पाकिस्तान जबरदस्त खिलाड़ी बना रहा होगा। मोस्ट लाइकली होगा कि वो कोई अच्छा खेलेगा, और फिर कोई यहाँ पे उनके मीडिया शीडिया कुछ कह रहा होगा, कोच कुछ और कह रहा होगा, वो रिटायर होकर आईपीएल खेलने लगेगा, उसका पासपोर्ट खत्म हो जाएगा, ब्ला 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 ब्ला। So I think that's the second part of it, that yes, like we are not able to translate our skill to the next level. So like for me, up until a few years ago, मतलब कि Pakistani batters batting modern cricket तो I hadn't literally seen with my eyes. Like it was maybe थोड़ा बहुत उमर अकमल कर लेता था, then Haider Ali came up, but he couldn't sustain it. And you could see why they couldn't sustain it, because these people were always treated like, you know, an imposition. कि यार ये अपनी विकेट खो देता है, ये करता है, वो करता है। मतलब ये बड़ी, जो अभी वर्ल्ड कप हो रहा था पाकिस्तान को पता नहीं 400 बनाने थे न्यूजीलैंड के खिलाफ, एंड फक you know Fakhar is hitting this crazy innings, and the entire time Babar is kind of telling him like आराम से, easy हो जा, easy हो जा, easy हो जा। तो ये तो आपकी सोच है। तो वो सोच बदलने, अब वो सोच बदलती इसीलिए है कि जब अगेन लाइक द मोर एक्सपोजर यू हैव टू द रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, लाइक एटलीस्ट यू हैव न्यू आइडियाज का एक्सपोजर होगा, तो वो भी पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट के अंदर लाइक जो बाहर के अगर कोच वगैरह भी आ रहे हैं, तो अगेन लाइक दैट दोज रिलेशनशिप्स, नॉट टू से कि बाहर के कोच कोई आके फरिश्ते हैं या जबरदस्त हैं, दे चेंज थिंग्स ओवरनाइट, बट exposure to different ideas and different ways of thinking, and that's why the PSL is still so valuable, because at least it's doing that every year. Everyone has to deal with it and be exposed to new things, and players are treated a lot better, and you can see that in so many younger players who are just like the national team ke liye khelna is not toxic versus for franchises, etc. So so I think like what you're saying about these guys not playing good cricket, like the biggest thing is कि यही जिस तरीके से बाबर और रिजवान, एंड देयर जस्ट द सिंबल्स ऑफ अ वाइडर थिंकिंग, वो T20 खेल रहे हैं, वो अब नहीं खेलता कोई भी ऐसे। और खास तौर पे 2 सीजन से आईपीएल में पार स्कोर इज 200, एवरेज 10 पर ओवर पे रन बन रहे हैं। तो यानी कि ऑब्वियसली क्रिकेट एज अ स्पोर्ट इज मूविंग अवे टू दिस, दिस इज नाउ द बेस ऑफ एक्सपेक्टेशंस, राइट? विच इज वही है कि मतलब आपकी अगर वो बेस ही नहीं है एक्सपेक्टेशंस की, लाइक if you're in a country where people are allowed to drink openly, and then you go to a country where they're not, like it's just a lot more shocking or whatever, because you just don't have that base, but they have that base set there already. तो उसी तरीके से अगर 200 की बेस बन चुकी है और आप कि सोच में भी नहीं है. मतलब, if Babar and Rizwan are your batters and you have to chase down 200 every game, you're probably not going to win a lot of games. Yeah, you'll have to get them to chase and play up to clearly the skill they have to bat that way. Skill issue nahi hai dono mein. It's a mindset issue. And I think that mindset नहीं बदलेगा तो वही होता है कि जैसे कि आपने खुद ही कहा कि एक उसने इनिंग्स में ठीक है 100 मार दी, दो में जीरो था, ये बता. नाउ दैट्स द काइंड ऑफ हॉट एंड कोल्ड दैट T20 cricket is very comfortable with. Kin Narayan, then he had that huge IPL, was one of the first things he said was like, they just told me, you'll bat at whatever opener, yeah, three till the end of the tournament. And he had this crazy run at the start, and then teams kind of figured him out, but they played him, they backed him. वो नहीं होता पाकिस्तान में किसी के साथ, बट वो वही मैं पहले वो इशू उठा चुका हूँ. बट कि देयर स्ट्रक्चरली वी नेवर रियली मैनेज टू सस्टेन करियर्स. And third thing is that you have I would not have Babar and Rizwan anywhere near the T20 side at this point, क्योंकि you've had long enough to see this, and more importantly कि अब आपके पास एक generation है जो उनके अगर आप इंटरनेशनल रिकॉर्ड देखें तो आप कहेंगे कि यार ये तो इन्होंने बड़े they haven't performed well at all. And again, they haven't played in the IPL, so like they're playing in like the lesser leagues. तो BPL में तो कोई भी बना ले, PSL में कोई भी बना ले टाइप एटीट्यूड होता है. उनको कहीं से भी बैकिंग नहीं मिल रही है. बट like someone like Saim Ayub, someone like क्या नाम है वो कीपर का, um, these guys, there's a lot of guys out there that are young and that bat differently, but उनको हमेशा आप खिलाते हो दो मैचेस. To be fair, Saim got a really long run, but he was the only one who got a long run. Everyone else comes, chop, change, खिलाया नहीं खिलाया, वो फलाना ढिमकाना. तो I think अभी भी, like this guy got 100. First thing, a lot of teams would be like, we're backing you now. You're part of our plans for till the next World Cup. You'd probably say something like that. Pakistan, even the chairman doesn't know if he's going to be there for the next World Cup. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I think you've given insight to a lot of different facets of Pakistan cricket, that because of which probably they are not able to get out of this mire and this mindset that they are in. And the more you talk about it, Amal, the more I wonder about Afridi's career, Shahid Afridi's career. I'm talking about, because
hmm,
he was the one who thought out of the box at a time when T20 was not even heard of, 96 में उसने 37 ball century mara, and then he went on to play like this. He never changed his mindset or his approach for the next almost 20 years. Yeah, 2016 he played his last international game. So what do you think, Amar, made him um, play consistently with that approach? Was it that the managements in those eras, were slightly more patient with such, or slightly more accepting with such kind of an outrageous attitude than the current management or the system? Because Afridi ka bhi aise tha. I mean, he never really sort of compromised with his approach. When if he had to hit the ball, he would hit the ball, and that's why his average, I think, for players who has played almost 400 games, he has one of the lowest averages in batting, which means that he did not compromise, he did not try to change his approach, and probably no one told him also. So, was it just an exception, or do you think that there is some sense, or that we can, or some method in the way he was managed by the management at that point of time, which is not seen now, as you say, that people are sort of, they're removed after a few failures of trying to be aggressive, and then they go back to the more conservative approach.
hmm. नहीं, बड़ा अच्छा सवाल है ये, क्योंकि let me answer it by kind of explaining the exception that Afridi was, और किस वजह से उसका करियर जो है वो इतने अरसे किस तरीके से चलता रहा. और इसका शॉर्ट आंसर ये है कि Afridi is a consummate politician as well. He was very, very aware of and very good at working the politics of Pakistan cricket. बट वो शुरू से वो ना ही ये बात सच थी और ना ही वो ये कर रहा था, बात की बात है. बट Afridi's rise in 96, so you see like after 92, the 90s में अभी last जो मैंने और उस्मान ने एपिसोड की थी was about on Batta Fast was about the legacy of the 90s, and one of the things
Yes.
जो हमने बात की है कि एक रन है कोई 3 साल का जिसमें कोई पता नहीं, I have to look this up because the numbers are crazy, but it's like कि 9 different players कैप्टन थे और कोई 14 दफा कैप्टनसी बदली थी. And us time maybe the team was actually a really good team. Still probably one of the best teams Pakistan has ever had in terms of talent. Our results were also not crazy bad, but you could see that sense of underachievement. And finally in the mid 90s, you kind of have a thoda sa ye chaos kam hota hai. And Wasim, when he resumes captaincy by like forgetting the date, like 96 or 97 or
Yeah.
something. तो उस वक्त तक एक थोड़ी सी यंगर जनरेशन अजहर महमूद अब्दुल रजाक शाहिद आफरीदी वगैरह कम इन एंड टू हिज क्रेडिट वसीम was like was really kind of backed these players as well, in the same way that Imran and Javed had backed his generation, and he'd received that elsewhere वगैरह वगैरह. तो so Afridi gets through like maybe like that first run because he is part of like that Wasim's golden generation, etc., etc. And Pakistan definitely kind of backs him on that front, but it's very quickly कि मतलब उसने 100 बना दी थी, but he had to keep working on his leg spin, and for a lot of people like that question really is looking at him as a leg spinner जिससे उसका बाकी करियर समझ आता है. But उसके बाद जब ये दूसरी चीज हुई थी कि फिर फिक्सिंग का फॉल आउट होता है ना, आफरीदी वाज famously never involved in that, so he survives that whole big change in Pakistan cricket. Next generation aati hai. And then obviously that INSEE era is also the Bob Woolmer era. And that you can argue is actually Afridi's peak because Woolmer tried to gets him to buy into test cricket, and he's becomes a really useful test cricketer, and that's kind of having a positive impact on white ball until he then retires from test cricket, and then Woolmer dies, and ये short lived जो उसकी टेस्ट वो सब कुछ था, और उसी वक्त फिर T20 क्रिकेट आना शुरू हो गई थी, and like he's man of the tournament of the first World Cup and probably deserved it even more in the next one which he wins, and then he's the captain when they lose in the semi-final in the third one. So that really cements, I guess, like that legacy because कि वो 10 साल 12-15 साल से टीम में था, 13 साल से at that point, yeah, and he had given you these big moments in the international stage, including a trophy. And I think कि उस वक्त फिर yeah, and so उस तरीके से like already like and all of you, मैं तो सिर्फ क्रिकेट की बात कर रहा हूँ, but like उसकी popularity was insane. He's um, I would argue most popular cricketer since Imran Khan. And I wasn't alive for Imran Khan's most of his peak, so I didn't see it firsthand. So in my lifetime, I would say Afridi is the most popular cricketer in Pakistan. Or that seems there's a huge thing, and his popularity, particularly in bringing the Pashtun population into cricket, is a really big impact as well. So उस तरीके से like I think कि that's how I would kind of like that Afridi never compromised and figured out how to stay within the snake pit of Pakistan cricket. B, that he, supported by Wasim, avoids the fixing cull of that a lot of people. Woolmer really connects and Kaiser Rose, and then T20 cricket arrives. So there's that. But QK, the reason I give all of these explanations is because we look at all of these other kind of maverick Pakistani cricketers, and they're really not given those same kind of runs. So I like again, and they're problematic personalities, etc. But somebody like Umar Akmal, for example, or in fact any fast bowler we've had, like every fast bowler since Wasim and Wakar is like they're really good, and then they start picking up injuries, and they never return to how they were at their peak. And I've been around enough to see that this is really a structural problem of mismanagement, not just of like the medical help that they're receiving, which uska bhi aapne suna hoga कि शाहीन आफरीदी या एहसानुल्लाह ने केस किया हुआ था, शाहीन आफरीदी अपने पैसों पे जाके अपनी ट्रीटमेंट करा था, तो
ट्रीटमेंट।
ये तो हाल है अभी भी। बट उसी के साथ साथ के वो कि नहीं, इनको हर मैच खिलाना है और 10 करोड़ मैचेस में 10 दफा बॉलिंग करा रहे हैं, लोड मैनेजमेंट की बात नहीं, ब्ला ब्ला, ऑल ऑफ दोज थिंग्स प्ले इनटू इट एज वेल ना। तो um, आपके पास ये Afridi managing to survive and managing to be like, politician, super popular, an all-rounder. Like, he's had to juggle a lot of things to stay in this game. But वो था कि, outside of that, like there is a tendency not to stay with that. और दूसरी चीज यही है कि वही, like जैसे फखर जमान भी है कि, like there's a lot of inconsistency in his kind of batting as well. And like, well, again, like we've never really built a lineup around him. Even though, again, I think a lot of teams, if they looked at a Pakistani batting lineup, they would be like this is the guy that you build around in 2020s cricket. तो वो उस तरीके से आई थिंक पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट की कंजर्वेटिज्म काफी ज्यादा रहती है। और वो नाउ लोग कहेंगे आप ये इतना बोल रहे हैं तो हाउ द हेल हैव these exciting or maverick kind of people come out? Because structurally, मतलब there's a lot of incompetency and मजबूरियां, और एक और फिक्सिंग स्कैंडल हुआ तो फिर एक पूरी नई टीम आ गई है, तो वो इस किस्म के केओस की वजह से लोग आते जाते रहते हैं, और कोई ना कोई तरीकेकार होते हैं, खासतौर पे कि वो किसी ने एक मैच में परफॉर्म कर दिया या किसी ने मतलब पीएसएल में कर दिया ये वो। बट वही है कि लाइक when you look at the system, once these people enter the system, like there's generally a lot of conservatism, a lot of kind of against it. And I think like if Afridi had been like a quieter personality, somebody not as popular, and still had the same approach, I don't know if his career would have lasted that long.
Very, very fascinating, the way you have charted Afridi's career. So I think it's probably meeting the right people at the right time, avoiding certain sort of controversies. So I think a lot of it goes into, of course, apart from his natural talent that he had, and I think, I mean, as an Indian fan, I still get traumatized by a lot of his innings that he played. Some of his innings, like the one in Kanpur in 2005. Then there was one in Toronto, if you remember. It was in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
1997 series when
yeah.
India actually defeated them 4-1. There was one rained out match in which Afridi scored a century. And otherwise, I'm sure, India would have probably lost that game as well. So, yeah, and who would forget, of course, the Chennai Test of 1999 where he scored 141. And I mean, you talk about his career as a Test batter. Of course, under Woolmer in 2005-6, he was sort of consistently playing well in Test cricket. Very brief though, but yes. But I think if you look back at Afridi's Test career, I guess the most shining highlight of that would be his knock in Chennai, because that was a crucial knock in Pakistan winning that game as well. So
Chennai and the Bangalore Test 2005 wala.
mhm.
That's also Afridi's bowling is really great in
Bowling,
that.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's really fun to watch him. Um, but yeah, वो ये है कि there is I don't think Pakistan cricket ने उसके करियर के दौरान भी और उसके बाद भी कभी कोई कोशिश की कि यार इस किस्म के प्लेयर्स को और ढूंढ के लाओ। Like
Mm.
I don't think structurally ये वो हुआ, but yes, like he influenced so many guys to play like that and to again, like I think पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट में जो कामयाब लोग होते भी हैं वो इतने क्रेजी odds ओवरकम करके आ रहे होते हैं that it's not surprising that they believe in their own their way, and unfortunately that also traps them sometimes as well, क्योंकि वो अपनी ही सुन के यहाँ तक आए हैं, तो फिर अब और किसी की क्यों सुने।
Fair enough. Moving forward, Emma, I wanted you to talk a little bit, because अभी तक मुझे नहीं पता आपने अपने बटाफास्ट पॉडकास्ट में इसके बारे में बात की about. So recently there has been a lot of news about Saudi Arabia's foray into cricket. They're trying to get players to play sort of a Grand Slam kind of a tournament of cricket, where they will have 4 to 5 T20 tournaments of 2 weeks each throughout the year. A lot of talks are going on. The ECB has, what I've heard is that the ECB has sort of denied or sort of rejected their proposal. They don't want to get into it. But the key thing is the Indian involvement, because the last auction that happened in Jeddah, and Saudi Arabia's tourism department is a key sponsor of the IPL as well. So, have you been following that up a little bit, Emma? What do you think about Saudi Arabia? Uh, do you think that that would be, and how do you think cricket would probably change if they sort of come up in a big way?
आई थिंक जो मुख्तसर जवाब ये है कि मैंने इसके बारे में ज़्यादा इसलिए नहीं सोचा क्योंकि अभी तक मुझे ये ज़्यादा कोई संजीदा या रियलिस्टिक चीज़ लगती नहीं है। और ये मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि अगर पहले आप सिर्फ सऊदी के नज़रिए से देखें तो उन्होंने एक बड़ी ओपन वो रखी थी कि जो भी स्पोर्ट है, पकड़म पकड़ाई या क्रिकेट या टेनिस या जो उसमें सब में पैसा फेंको, देखोगे, जस्ट थ्रो मड ऑन द वॉल एंड सी व्हाट स्टिक्स। दैट्स बीन an अप्रोच, राइट?
That's how much money
बहुत
they
बड़ी,
have.
यस, 100%। तो उसमें अब सबसे ज्यादा, अब जैसे न्यूकासल यूनाइटेड ने अपनी जिंदगी का पहली ट्रॉफी जीत ली, वो सेटअप, वो तो पूरा सिस्टम कतर और अबू धाबी ने पहले से बहुत सक्सेसफुली किया हुआ है, तो वहां तो कोई बड़ी बात नहीं थी। दूसरा ही आए थे गोल्फ बदलने, वो गोल्फ में भी जो शुरू में शोर शराबा था वो अब वो रुक गया है, और अभी तक देयर रीयूनिफिकेशन की बात भी अभी तक आगे नहीं चल रही
Hmm.
है। तो जो पहली चीज हमें सामने वाजे होने लगी है कि ये जो यकीन था कि भाई हर जगह बस पैसा फेंको और बाकी पूरी दुनिया नंगा नाचेगी आपके लिए, तो वो एक हद तक सही है, बट इतना आसान नहीं है। बस सिर्फ पैसे फेंकने से नहीं होगा, आपको थोड़ी अकल वकल भी लड़ानी होती है, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा। विच ब्रिंग्स मी टू माई सेकेंड थिंग अगेन, सिद्धार्थ, मैं आपसे माफी मांगता हूँ क्योंकि अब क्योंकि इंडियन क्रिकेट के खिलाफ बोलना इतना रेयर हो गया है कि अगर कोई बोलता भी है तो लोग कहते हैं कि भाई ये तो बड़ा एंटी है, ये वो, तो आपके कमेंटर्स वगैरह बहुत बुरा लगेगा उनको कि हर बात पे मैं यही बोले जा रहा हूँ। बट कि अभी जैसे हाल ही में हुआ था कि नासिर हुसैन ने कोई तनकीद की इंडियन क्रिकेट की, और फिर सुनील गावस्कर कहता है कि इसकी सैलरी कौन पे करता है। एंड it was not just Gavaskar. I feel like this sentiment is very broad, where it's just like कि हम देते हैं पैसे भाई तो तुम चुपचाप करके जो हम कह रहे हैं वही करो। Like you get that sentiment from a lot of people from Indian cricket, not always in such an aggressive way, but kind of being like, yeah, well, India is the biggest market and it does do this. तो वो सारी चीज ये इसी पे आ गई कि जो पैसा फेंक रहा है बस उसी की बात हमें सुननी चाहिए। तो फ्रॉम दैट परस्पेक्टिव, इफ देयर समवन न्यू इन द गेम ऑल्सो थ्रोइंग पैसा इन जिसकी बात सुननी पड़ेगी, तो जस्ट फ्रॉम अ क्यूरियोसिटी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू मेरे लिए ये इंटरेस्टिंग हो गया कि अच्छा चलो मे बी शायद ये कुछ और करते हैं। बट इसीलिए मैंने कहा मुझे रियलिस्टिक नहीं लगती, क्योंकि अगेन लाइक और स्पोर्ट्स में भी जो इंट्रेंच्ड पावर्स हैं, लाइक द सऊदी एंट्री हैजंट रियली डन एनीथिंग टू चेंज मच। आज मैं गोल्फ की इसलिए बोला क्योंकि गोल्फ में वो सबसे बड़ा उन्होंने अभी तक डिसरप्शन की है, और वहां पे भी ऐसे ही लग रहा है कि अल्टीमेट मकसद यही था कि वापस रीयूनाइट हो, लाइक व्हाट देव आस्क्ड फॉर इज कि हम आप रीयूनाइट कर दें पीजीए टूर के साथ और हमारा बंदा बोर्ड में बिठा दें। Not really looking to upend the thing as much as like get a seat on that table. So I feel कि क्रिकेट में भी अगर यही उनकी एम्बिशन रहेगी तो फिर कुछ खास तो फर्क नहीं आ रहा। मे बी कुछ मैचेस जद्दा में हो जाएंगे या यहाँ हो जाएंगे। इट्स नॉट लाइक साउदीज आर लुकिंग टू क्रिएट क्रिकेटर्स इन देयर ओन पॉपुलेशन, and it's not like they have shown the capacity of disrupting an existing established sport and being able to do things on their own terms. All they've really managed to show is that they start sponsoring everything and anything, and people are happy to take their paychecks. तो उस तरीके से क्रिकेट में भी वही था कि अगर मे बी ये इंडिया को चैलेंज कर रहे हैं तो कुछ दिलचस्प होगा। आई डोंट थिंक क्रिकेट के लिए बेहतर होगा, बट इट बी इंटरेस्टिंग। बट and there's maybe a way where South and या तो फिर मतलब वही है कि वो उनको लग रहा है कि हम अब क्रिकेट चलाएंगे, मे बी रिप्लेस इंडिया। लाइक I just don't see why Saudi Arabia would want to do that and what it
Yeah.
would gain from that.
Hmm.
तो एंड में फिर मतलब वही अलग अलग, कि इफ दे नॉट गोना टेक ऑन इंडिया, देन ऑल दे रियली इंटरेस्टेड इन इज प्रॉब्ली वही द सीट एट द टेबल के आप मैच करा दें। तो वो अब स्पेनिश सुपर कप से लेके F1 से लेके हर चीज सऊदी अरब में होस्ट होती है, वही उससे ज्यादा उनकी कोई सोच भी नहीं है। बड़ी लोग बातें कर रहे थे कि चेंज कर रहे हैं, ये कर रहे हैं, वो कर रहे हैं, उनका वही है भाई कि हमें भी एक दुबई वगैरह बनना है, और हम भी चाहते हैं कि आप लोग यहाँ के, और हमें बुरा, डोंट थिंक ऑफ अस एज दिस रिग्रेसिव autocratic nation, which I guess, like if this was a big problem for them, they're maybe solving that. But I don't think this is something that really matters in cricket.
Yeah, I think some of the cricket experts have said that कि उनको they are not trying to take on India, but maybe India के साथ चल के, and as you said also that they just want to have maybe someone from their country on the board. But ये भी है अमर कि हमने देखा है सऊदी अरेबिया में एक बहुत ही strong South Asian population है. So probably they are looking to tap into that potential to see if matches can be held in their country, and there
कहाँ
would
पे?
be interest to
सॉरी, कहाँ?
I'm saying in Saudi Arabia there is a
हाँ,
sizable South Asian population.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean especially Indian, Pakistani,
Yes, yes, yes,
Bangladeshi
yes, yes.
expats are there, so maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I don't know, अगर मैं खुद गया नहीं हूँ सऊदी अरेबिया, फ्रॉम वट एवर आई हर्ड फ्रॉम पीपल, इट्स नॉट लाइक कि वो बड़ा मर रहे हैं अब पाकिस्तान इंडियन डायस्पोरा को
Yeah.
सपोर्ट करने के लिए और एनीथिंग। बट हाँ, श्योर, आई लाइक, आई मीन, आई कैन सी दैट लॉजिक एज वेल, बट आई फील लाइक कि it's more, like ultimately, like what have they been trying to do? They've been trying to um, make sure that their global image changes drastically, and that you associate like Saudi Arabia as this like fun place to go visit, and MBS as this great visionary ruler. That's really it. उससे आगे कोई बात ज्यादा वो कर भी नहीं रहे, ज्यादा करने चाह भी नहीं रहे।
Hmm.
और वही है कि हाँ, मतलब आपने रियल मैड्रिड और बार्सिलोना का मैच एक हफ्ते कराया, दूसरे हफ्ते आपने IPL का मैच करा दिया, तो मे बी या जो लोग वहाँ, like then you can say to, let's say, Microsoft or Tesla, okay, open up an office here, and yes, executives from different part of the world will want to come in here, because that's really all that, okay, this is a playbook that we've actually seen other cities, states and countries pull off before. Like कोई बड़ी इसमें गेम नहीं है, yes, just the scale of it, and B, क्योंकि हम इतने बुलशटिंग के जमाने में रहते हैं, तो लोग भाई करोड़ों आ रहा है, ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा, बट एक्चुअली किसी भी प्लान में जो मुख्तलिफ स्पोर्ट्स के कोई खास कोई न्यू थिंकिंग के साथ कोई भी नहीं आ रहा है, तो लाइक it's not like they're coming in with any greater ideological vision.
I mean, when you say this, Amar, तो in fact जब हम IPL का भी देखते हैं मॉडल, when it started in 2008, it wasn't something that was new. I mean, intercity games is something that EPL has been having for ages. Other leagues, though, I guess it was because it was new to cricket, but it was not new to sports in general. So, but anyway, I mean, Lalit Modi sort of pulled it
Yeah,
off very
this
well.
is this is वही मेरी वही ना, कि जैसे कि अब मिसाल के तौर पे सऊदी अरब was the first Gulf nation to approach this kind of technique, then we could also say कि हाँ ठीक है, साउथ अमेरिका में हुआ था, यहाँ नहीं हुआ था, या जो कुछ, बट लाइक मैं वही कह रहा हूँ कि ये ये सॉफ्ट पावर को इस स्पोर्ट्स के जरिए चेज
Hmm.
करना, ये दुबई ने, अबू धाबी ने, यू कैन आर्ग्यू शारजा ने, कतर ने, ये बहुत इनसे 10 हाथ आगे, 10 साल 20 साल पहले से करते आ रहे हैं। सिर्फ मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, हमें आई थिंक थोड़ा ये बेचने की कोशिश की गई थी कि नहीं, जो सऊदी कर रहे हैं ये इतनी बड़ी लेवल पे है कि ये पहले कभी हुआ ही नहीं है, बट actually it's the exact same thing. There's nothing like you could even argue कि जिस लेवल पे PSG और मैन सिटी पे जो उन्होंने टाइम एफर्ट और सोच लगाई है, अभी तक सऊदी ने किसी भी चीज पे इतना नहीं किया, बट again, like that's splitting hairs. Like the point is कि yeah, it's like when you come to compare it to something like IPL, तो उसमें फर्क यही था कि ये लीग्स वगैरह वो आई थी, बट अभी तक क्रिकेट में उस तरीके से वो मोनेटाइज नहीं हुआ था। जो सऊदी जिन चीजों को मोनेटाइज करना चाह रहे हैं, वो more or less monetized हैं पहले से. They're not bringing, if they're bringing a new league or this grand slam, yeah, that would be innovation, but it's very obvious that that's no one has thought deep. Like chat GPT से कह दिया है कि भाई कुछ बता दो और वही बेच रहे हैं, कुछ deep नहीं है उसमें.
Hmm. Okay, Amar, my next question is quickly. I want you to tell me your three favorite Indian cricketers and why.
यार एक तो मुझे बड़ा वही दुख है कि ना, क्योंकि मैं इंडिया को सिर्फ हम आईसीसी टूर्नामेंट पे आप मैच देखने को मिलता है मुझे, क्योंकि मैं नहीं फॉलो कर रहा होता बाकी सारी तो.
Maybe
एक
from
जो,
earlier times, like in the 90s,
या
if
वही,
you.
आई कैन डेफिनेटली पिक फ्रॉम अर्लियर टाइम्स, बट लाइक व्हाट आई, yeah, it's not that fun. And obviously earlier times में फिर इंडिया की टीम भी इतनी जबरदस्त नहीं थी, so I would like ये अपना sadness register करने के बाद, and the choice isn't that hard for me. It's so definitely Kohli, easy, number one by far and away. Then I would say Rohit and Dhoni. I think in Dhoni pe I was a much bigger fan until he retired and all of the other kind of stuff. But अगर purely cricket पे देखा जाए तो ये तीन बहुत easy choices हैं. I would also just like aesthetically, I think I always loved watching Dravid and Yuvraj. And so red ball, white ball, because white ball में Yuvraj, that over against Stuart Broad was the just absolute one of those peak moments for me. I always loved how Yuvraj batted. बहुत खूबसूरत लगता था. And same with Dravid. In fact, like, I was in Karachi when India made 350 in 2004 and Dravid got 99, I think.
99, yeah.
Shoaib Akhtar bowled him.
Yeah.
And I remember in that, मतलब वो मैच की बहुत सारी यादें हैं, मगर जो उस ड्राविड वाली इनिंग्स थी, आई रिमेंबर लाइक वाचिंग इट एंड बीइंग लाइक काइंड ऑफ कि इतना बॉइस्ट्रस और क्रेजी एटमोसफेयर में ही जस्ट वाज अ वेरी लाइक कामनेस एग्जूड कर रहा था, और वो एक बड़ी अमेजिंग चीज थी टू विटनेस लाइव. एंड दैट्स
Until.
व्हाई मैं वही कह रहा हूँ कि अगर मैं अगर कोहली,
Mhm.
आई फील आई हैव सीन रोहित इन दैट 2008 सीरीज एशिया कप
Asia
जब
Cup.
कराची में सारे मैचेस हुए थे,
Yes.
तो मैंने शायद उसमें देखा होगा. बट वही है कि बड़ा दुख है, लाइक आई वुड हैव लव्ड टू सी रेगुलरली these kinds of guys. And then I think एक चीज that everyone I know is obsessed with him, and anytime I do watch him he's insane to watch, but वही है कि देखने को ही नहीं मिलता. टेस्ट मैच में पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ हो तो आई वुड हैव वॉच्ड हिम मोर क्लोजली, इज जसप्रीत बुमराह. whatever TikTok reel, Insta, whatever I see of Bumrah is phenomenal. Magar, yeah, like we just see him very very unregular, वरना like क्योंकि उसके बारे में जब मैं कभी पढ़ता हूँ या कोई stats देखता हूँ, they also seem unrealistic. But I haven't, मतलब ये मेरे दिमाग से मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, I haven't really, दिल से मैंने नहीं देखा है उसे. And through no fault of his own, I just don't watch Indian cricket that much.
So, Emma, I'm interested in knowing that why have you not taken one name that obviously, I mean, the biggest
Sachin.
Indian batter, Sachin Tendulkar. I remember in our last
Ooh,
podcast, you had mentioned a few things about Sachin, and one of the videos in which you said that Sachin was Battamis, you were referring to the 2003 World Cup match. That became very viral on on my feed. But Ahmed,
yeah.
I mean, so you mentioned the present crop a lot, Rohit, Virat. So, what is your take on Sachin generally, and why does his name not come to your mind?
तो आई इस मतलब ये तो काफी अब वो दोहराई जा चुकी हैं ये सारी बातें, मगर मैंने इंडिया में स्पोर्ट्स इलस्ट्रेटेड इंडिया ने कमीशन किया था राइटर्स फ्रॉम ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड जब सचिन की हंड्रेड्स हुई थी. एंड आई रिटन ऑन हिम देन एज वेल कि एक पाकिस्तान के अंदर एक बिलीफ था कि ये मैच विनर नहीं है, क्योंकि 90s में जो भी शारजा में काफी दफा हुआ कि सचिन ने सेंचुरी वेंचुरी बनाई, या चेन्नई वाला टेस्ट जो था और ये लोग मैच हार गए. एंड I think when I had to write on it professionally, so then there was, you go through the data and you actually go past your own memories as a child, and you see a lot there. Or you learn like मतलब वही मैंने देखा था कि yeah, he's a great match winner and he's been amazing, and against Pakistan as well, which is why that 2003 World Cup was so important to his legacy. Um, but I think कि उस वक्त एक तो ये था कि अगेन जिन तीनों खिलाड़ियों का मैंने नाम लिया है have a great record against Pakistan, right? So the same way you guys really rate our 90s side, like I think it's that same, वही मेंटालिटी वहां पे चलती आ रही है कि खास तौर पे, I feel I heard Pakistani players say this, that like Rohit जो खेलता है, like we've seen all kinds of other players, but Rohit के जो shot है are just like, it feels like you're not on the same level. Like, and it's true. Like, that's something that I feel with him and Kohli always. Um, and so I think it was Sachin के जमाने में हमारी टीम भी ज्यादा बेहतर थी, रिजल्ट्स बेहतर थे, ये वो, so you kind of don't rate that much, ये वो. And then secondly, I think this isn't said enough, अगर मतलब कि सचिन एक बहुत ज्यादा इज द परफेक्ट दामाद, राइट? वो एक एक डेमोग्राफिक के लिए वो एक परफेक्ट सिंबल है, विच मीन्स दैट फॉर दोज हु नॉट getting inspired by that demographic, or don't aspire to be like mummy daddy lovely nice, उनको तो कभी भी वो इतना अच्छा नहीं लगेगा, राइट? लाइक कि जो विराट एंड रोहित जस्ट एज celebrities and people are hitting a very different demographic, like कि वो मुझे याद है कि again, like all my references are from 10 years ago, but तन्मय भट्ट ने स्नैपचैट पे सचिन और लता की आवाज पे कुछ निकाला था, and like Sachin's wife tweeted angrily about it and whatever. Like, it was just touchy and like always just very sweet and nice, and even maybe Sachin had a wild life, I have no idea, but that's the image he always puts out. Versus like Virat Kohli and Rohit, like wo one of my favorite songs, Divine, jo rapper from Mumbai, uska gana hai Plush. And you listen to that song, that's like literally Rohit Sharma के बारे में वो गाना है ना कि तो like that, वही फर्क है कि रोहित इज द काइंड ऑफ गाय जो रैप सॉन्ग उस पे बैठता है, सचिन इज द काइंड ऑफ गाय जिस पे भजन बैठती है, तो that's that's the difference.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I guess they come from different eras and a totally a different mindset of fans probably as well. Although for me, Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli are also equally huge. I'm a fan of them. Anyway, I think so.
बैड
Coming,
बॉयज भी है ना थोड़ा, थोड़ा वो भी तो आप, ये
yeah,
ये नहीं एक्सेप्ट हो रहा ना कि वो जो, it's not the boy your parents want you to marry, it's the guy that you want to hook up with, like that's the difference.
yeah, and I think Sachin has maybe it's his PR or his the team that looks after his image. Probably they've made a conscious decision to have him in one certain image, and credit to him. I think amidst all the celebrity pressure that he's had to deal with, he has maintained that. So anyway, I'm coming now towards the end of this fascinating chat. I want to take you back to Pakistan, and the PSL is going to start soon for this year. Interestingly, the PSL is going to this time is clashing with the IPL, and when the schedule came out, there were murmurs, especially in India, that dekho Pakistan is trying to take on India. You know the kind of sensationalism that I get so frustrated looking at in Indian journalism, but I guess that's what sells. So, I mean, looking at, I mean, was it something that Pakistan Cricket Board could have avoided for their own sake, simply looking at the large numbers that IPL produces, or do you think that they will still do well as a commercial product? And also about what do you look at in terms of the players that are going to participate, and what is it going to offer to them for the next couple of years or so, or maybe the next year?
तो ये एक बड़ा दिलचस्प और कॉन्सिक्वेंशियल सवाल है, क्योंकि पहली चीज ये है कि इसलिए सिर्फ ये स्विच किया गया था क्योंकि रमजान हो रहा था,
Hmm.
So Ramzan in Pakistan is a very specific cultural thing, which जो और मुल्कों में उसकी कोई ज्यादा analogy भी नहीं है. Well, मैं इतना रहा भी नहीं हूँ कहीं और, but there's no way cricket could have competed. Just in a very simple way कि obviously आपके खिलाड़ी पूरे दिन रोजे रख रहे हैं, they're fasting, and then फिर के for like a lot of the majority, they're also attending nightly prayers after sunset and everything. So it would just be insanity to go up against Ramzan, like, and वही के गाने नहीं बज पाते and बहुत सारे मतलब
Mm.
there's just, it's a non-starter, like you just don't go there, which meant कि then okay, do you pull it back earlier, do you do it late, etc etc. So that was the first thing. I think जो दूसरी बात है कि unfortunately Siddharth, पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट का इंडियन क्रिकेट के साथ एंड देयरफॉर ऑलमोस्ट इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट के साथ एक एडवर्सेरियल रिश्ता है, यू नो और जो कुछ भी गुनाह हैं पाकिस्तान के और पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट के, वो अब एट दिस पॉइंट लाइक देव ट्राइड टू मेक इट क्लियर कि ओके लेट्स फाइंड अ वे फॉरवर्ड, बट इंडियन क्रिकेट इज नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन डूइंग दैट, राइट? तो वहां पे फिर ये है कि अनफॉर्चुनेटली वेदर यू लाइक इट और नॉट, यू डू हैव टू टेक ऑन इंडिया कोट ऑन कोट, बिकॉज वो ये है कि वो आपको उस दायरे से ही बाहर कर दिया है, तो आपके पास लाइक no one in Pakistan wanted to take on BCCI or whatever and make a point for a point's sake. Everyone was a lot more interested in just hosting the tournament and making sure it goes off well, etc. तो वो ऐसा नहीं था कि इंडिया को भी दिखाना है, बट मसला यही है कि अब आपके पास कोई चॉइस ही नहीं है, आपको करनी चीज पड़ेंगी चीजें जो उस पे ऑपोजिशन पे, एंड सो जो मेरा पेसिमिस्टिक वर्ल्ड व्यू है उसके मुताबिक आई थिंक कि अभी से ही ये आदत बना लें, क्योंकि as Indian IPL teams start owning franchises the world over, it'll be hard for them also to employ. If Shadab Khan is employed by San Francisco and कल को इंडिया में उसके ओनर का कोई फड्डा हो जाए किसी पार्टी के साथ, तो this will become an issue on social media वगैरह वगैरह, and it'll be very easy to cancel that one contract.
Mm.
Um, तो आपके बड़े मुश्किल नजर आ रहा है कि आप और लीग्स में आपके प्लेयर्स को चांसेस मिलेंगे सही तरीके से। उसी तरीके से आपकी इंटरनेशनल टीम को नहीं, होस्टिंग तो अब आप भूल ही जाएं, मगर वही कि स्केड्यूलिंग क्या हो रही है, क्या कितनी आपको अकोमोडेट करने, वो सब भी नहीं होगा। तो पाकिस्तान में मतलब द पेसिमिस्टिक थिंग फॉर मी इज कि एज like 50 years from now or 30 years from now, I would imagine that Pakistan cricket would be kind of a closed box where whatever cricket is played, whatever format is played within Pakistan, like kind of like NFL in America or something. क्योंकि international cricket, but I don't see. I've written about this of many like few years ago already. I don't see it lasting very long in its current format. और अगर रहती भी है तो उसमें पाकिस्तान specifically is going to face much worse outcomes than anyone else, because एक तो rich poor का है ही divide, but पाकिस्तान के ऊपर एक special kind of unique kind of stance है Indian cricket का, तो so the future is very bleak. So the only hope that I see is that if it is a closed box kind of thing, and then maybe some connections and whatever cricket infrastructure appears, but ultimately like basis of Pakistan cricket would have to support and be the basis of all Pakistan cricket. I yeah. So I think that's what, if the PSL right now has to start taking on the IPL and maybe learn what it is के जैसे कि आपकी एक मिसाल यही है कि जैसे आपकी टीम आईपीएल से एलिमिनेट हुई, अगर आपका पीएसएल चल रहा है, यू कैन ऑफर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स टू ऑल ब्ला ब्ला ब्ला, जो कुछ भी है, लाइक कोई सिस्टम रहेगा adversarial. So it's good that you start learning how to live in an adversarial system, is what my thinking is.
Mm. Interesting. So, Emma, thank you so much. We have overshot by 1 hour comfortably, but listening to you is like, time can go on and on, but in the interest of time and your own schedule as well, we will end this. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you once again on the SNS Cricket Diaries. Or I hope that I can continue to have you over and over, and I really hope that we can do a podcast later on in much brighter times of Pakistan cricket. So let's hope that Pakistan cricket stands up somehow, and we can see some brighter moments for them.
थैंक यू सो मच, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया फॉर हमेशा मुझे दावत देने का, एंड फॉर all the love and sincerity that you always show for the sport that both of us love, and for Pakistan cricket as well.
And
So
Emma,
thank
the
you.
love is not just from me, but I can assure you that a lot of Indians who follow you and your podcast, the Bata Fast, and I guess it's just the camaraderie that you have with Osman Samiuddin and the kind of analysis. Because I personally do when I share the videos that I do with you with my friends, they always have high regard for you. So please continue to do the good work that you're doing, and hope to have you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you. Take care and see you till the next episode of the SNS Cricket Diaries. Bye.